The topic is throw versus throws. So we'll learn about these two keywords. Before that, we will learn how an exception is propagated. And at the end also I will show you how to write user-defined exceptions. So let us first learn how an exception is propagated. So for that I have taken some methods. Let us learn from this one. Here is a main method. Main method is calling method 1. And here is method 1. Method 1 is calling method 2 by passing two parameters 10 and 0 and taking the result in R and displaying it. So method 1 is actually called by main, right, from main. And this is calling method 2. So this is method 2. Method 2 is taking two parameters A and B and calculating A divided by B and returning the result C. So this is how the example code looks like. If using these three methods I am writing a program and execute it, what happens? See here the parameters are 10 and 0. So this becomes 10 and this becomes 0. So this becomes 10 divided by 0. Will it get any result? No. 10 divided by 0 itself causes arithmetic exception. So here the exception will be raised. Wherever there is a possibility of exception, we should handle it using try and catch. No doubt arithmetic exception is an unchecked one. But we know very well that here we are passing 10 and 0, so definitely it will cause exception. So what will happen when the exception is raised here? Definitely this return C will not be executed because that is the next line after the statement which is causing an exception. This will not execute. Here the exception will be raised. Then it will look for try and catch block. It is not there. It is not there. So this method 2 is not having try and catch to handle that exception. Then that exception will be raised or passed on to the calling method. So who called method 2? Method 1 has called in this line. So exception reaches here. It reaches here. It will reach here. So at least this line should be in try and catch. If you write this in try and catch, then exception will be handled here. It will be handled here. But there is no try and catch here also. There is no try and catch. Then what happens? So this exception will be passed on to the method which has called method 1. So it is called in main method. So it's here. So it will be passed on to this one. It is passed on to this one. Now at least this must be written in try and catch. That is also not in try and catch. Then it will go out of the main method. So who actually called main method? When you run the program, JVM will call main method and execute the program. So the exception goes to JVM and the program crashes. So let us see once again quickly. Here the exception was raised. It was not handled by try and catch. There is no try and catch. So it will go to the method which is called method 2. So in method 1. So in method 1, this should be in try and catch. This is also not in try and catch. So this statement is getting an exception. This goes to the method which has called this one, that is calling method. Main has called method 1, this one, method 1, right? So exception is here inside this method, that is in this line. So it passes to the one who is calling method 1. So it goes here inside the main method here. Here also try and catch is not there. So then program crashes. So exception will be propagated to a calling method and its calling method and its calling method. That's what, if you want to know these details, print stack trace is a method for that. So this is about propagation. Now next I will show you if we want to throw exception, how to throw it. So I'll make some slight changes in the example and I'll explain how we can throw our own exception. There we will be coming across throw and throws. So in this example, we will see how to throw exception, create an object of exception and throw by ourselves. That exception is not raised built-in. Let us see. First I'll explain the example. Here is a main method calling method 1 and method 1 is calling a area method by passing 10 and 5 and printing the result. And this is a method calculating area of a rectangle, that is A, length into breadth. It is taking length and breadth and calculating them and returning the area. Now this is normal. When you run main method or program or the main method, this calls this one and this calls this one and this returns the result in A and it will print it. Then control goes back to main and it will stop. Now here I will handle an exception. See, this area method is calculating area of a rectangle. This length and breadth are passed as parameter. These values 10 and 5. They cannot be negative. So if the dimensions are negative, area cannot be calculated. So who should take care of it that area can be calculated or cannot be calculated? This method, area method. So let us see how to handle. Suppose I want to pass minus 10. Then this method should check whether length and breadth are positive or not. If they are negative, then it cannot calculate. See this one. I'll check first. If length is less than 0 or breadth is less than 0. If any one of them is less than 0, we cannot calculate area. So this area method should inform to this method one, the one who has called, that I cannot calculate. If it can calculate, it will calculate it and return the area, right? Return the area. But here it cannot return it because this is not possible. So how to tell the calling method? This is the very important point. Listen, how to tell the calling method that I cannot return you the result? So here, throw exception. So throwing an exception is alternative to returning inside the method. If the method can get the results perfectly, successfully, return. If it is not possible, then throw exception. So here I will write throw exception. So here I am writing the keyword throw. It is used for throwing an exception. And what we throw? Object of exception. So say new exception. See, this is a built-in class. I am using same class, right? Throw new exception. So if you want to write a message, you can write a message. There is no space here. So I will just write quotes and say that length and breadth cannot be negative or dimensions cannot be negative. So let us say this is a message. Okay, throwing an exception. So let us read the method once again. Area method takes length and breadth. If length is less than 0 or breadth is less than 0, throw object of exception. Exception is a built-in class. Throw object of exception. And with a message, you can mention a message here. And then let me complete this one. If length and breadth are positive, then calculate area and return. Return means the result goes here. But what happens when I throw exception? See here. See, whenever you say throw new exception, exception is raised, and exception is a checked exception. It's a built-in class, right? It's a checked exception. So it must be caught. You must have try and catch. Compiler will not compile if you don't write try and catch. Then where it should be? First of all, it should be at the same place. So it makes no sense. You are throwing there only and catching there only. The purpose of throwing is to throw it to the calling method. So it should go there. So if you're not handling in the same line, then we declare in the signature that this method throws exception. So here we write throws exception. See, the keywords are different. This is a throw. It's a verb, action. We are throwing an exception there. Throws, continuous tense. It's acting as an adjective, defining the method, that this method throws exception. Because inside that method, there is a throw. It means that whoever is calling this method, area method, should handle that exception. So it comes inside the signature. So the methods which throws checked exceptions, they must have in the signature that they throw so and so type of exception. So that whoever is calling them must handle it. So throw is used for throwing and throws is used for defining it. So to make it simple, suppose I throw exception. So for throwing, throw keyword is used. Now it is written here on my head that he throws exceptions. So it's defining that be careful when you come in nearer to him, he throws exception, try to catch it. That's what it's written on my head. So it's written on the head. That is the signature of a method, that this method throws exception. So then it becomes mandatory for us to handle here. So you write this inside try and catch and handle that exception, right? Handle that exception. That is exception E. And you can print the exception. So what are the message you have mentioned here, that will be printed there, right? That's all. This is about throw and throws. So let us quickly look at these things. See, you can check your own conditions, and based on your conditions, you can throw exceptions. You can create an object of exception that is built in class, and you can throw it. So when you are throwing from a method, in the signature, you should declare that this method throws exception. So the method which is calling must catch that exception. That's all. And one extra thing. If you don't want to catch here also, write throws here. Write throws here. Don't want to try and catch here also. Now when you wrote throws here, who is calling method 1? Main. Then you must write try and catch, otherwise your program will not compile. No, I don't want to handle here also. Then the simple method is throws here also. Throws exception. So you can say throws exception here also and here also. Okay, I did not write exception. So now it's throws exception, throws exception. So if a method doesn't want to handle exception, the easy method is throw it further. So now what happens if the exception raises here? It throws and comes here. Again it throws, it goes there. Again it throws, it goes to JVM and program crashes. So throws exception you must write for checked exception. So yes, this is a checked exception. That's all about throws and throws keyword. So anyway, you have to look at the demonstration also, right? So that you can practice the same on your computer. Now next I will show you, instead of using this exception class, I will define my own exception class and throw it. So for that I will just write only one method, and I will show you how to define our own class instead of using this built-in class. So next I will just write the example and explain you user defined exception. So here I have defined my own exception class. Class negative dimension exception. So usually the word exception is used with the class, so that by reading it we can understand, okay, it's an exception class. So it's more descriptive, though it's lengthy, little lengthy, but it is more describing, self-describing. Negative dimension exception. And our own exception class must extend from exception class. This is a built-in class in Java, so that I have done. And for a error message, we can override public void toString method. So this is returning a string. Then for error message, I have overridden public void string toString method which returns a string. So here is an error message, return dimensions cannot be negative. So dimension cannot be negative, this is a message. So user can understand, oh, dimension I have given wrong. So he will try once again with positive dimensions. Then here is the area method. Now here it is taking length and breadth. Just now we saw this method, and checking length is less than 0 or breadth is less than 0. Then throw new negative dimension exception, right? Constructor is called here, new negative dimension exception. So I am creating an object of this class and throwing. So whenever you say throw new, you must catch here only, but there is no sense of catching in the same place. When you are catching there only, why to throw it? So it should be called by the calling method. So when this method is throwing an exception, in its signature it must have declaration that it throws exception. So throws which exception? Negative dimension exception. So this is how we can throw our own exception. We can define our own exception classes. So depending on our Java project, we can have our own exception classes, set of classes, and we can use them wherever we require. So in the demonstration video, I'll be giving demonstration for user defined classes also. And also I'll be giving some exercises for you to practice exception handling. So that's all in this video.